Welcome back into the Sports Source. No spinning in this one. Tennova Healthcare, folks, with locations across East Tennessee. Tennova Healthcare offers everything from orthopedic care to cardiac care to cancer care. They even offer home care and hospice services. Visit Tennova.com to learn more about the many ways that Tennova Healthcare can help you in your time of need. Tennova.com. All right, guys, we're rushing along here. I want to do a few more quick hitters just to get the Cuonzo Martin stuff off the plate, and then we can dive into the candidate thing. If you're the third best coach over your time, you might expect to be paid as the third best guy. Here's what Tennessee offered Cuonzo Martin, $1.8 million if we can get the SEC salaries. There we go. That would have moved Cuonzo Martin to 8th. He would have been 8th. So is that a good enough offer for Cuonzo Martin? Was that good enough? It was a $500,000 raise, but he would have been 8th behind Frank Martin, Anthony Grant, Kevin Stallings, Bruce Pearl, Mike Anderson, Billy Donovan, John Calipari.
I want to say no. And I think it even gets worse when you tie it back into what we talked about in the last segment, a $1 million buyout. You weren't even going to give him a buyout that equaled 1 year of his salary if you canned him. So I think that kind of plays back into that. No, I think it's still too low, and I still think the buyout thing would have played a huge role.
You could have offered him a little bit more. You could have gone to 2 if you wanted to, but I don't think that was his issue. But you could have gone there, and I think you could have justified it. But that $1 million buyout is the thing that stuck with him. I think that's the reason he would not sign the contract.
All right, let me come back with Chuck and Mike here. One day after committing to Tennessee, Kingsley Okoro, thank goodness I don't have to learn how to pronounce his name, he became a Vol for a day and went to California. He went to California. One guy on Twitter suggested to me that was akin to Ed Orgeron trying to take players from Tennessee in 2010 when Kiffin and crew left. Is that a fair comparison?
I don't think it's fair at all. Those guys had been Vols for a lot longer than a day, were signed, were on campus, ready to start class the next day, right? Right.
Yes.
So I don't think that's
And
comparable
plus,
at
you
all.
remember the way it happened. I mean, wasn't Lane Kiffin out making his 2-minute or brief goodbye press conference,
Right.
and Orgeron's behind the curtain trying to call, recruit and telling him, hey, you don't need to come here. We're going to California, Southern California. So
Don't
no,
don't go to class.
yeah, that's not even close.
Oh, that's right. Don't go to class tomorrow.
Not only that, Cuonzo told me that he didn't even talk to the kid when he decommitted and committed to California. So there wasn't any pursuing of him to go to Cal. He didn't make a phone call to try to change his mind like Ed Orgeron did.
A lot of talk this week about the fact that Cuonzo Martin didn't meet with his team. Mm-hmm. He's taken a lot of beating over that one. I had a question in here about, was he wrong not to meet with his team? I was unaware of the fact that he said on your show he met with his team.
He did, and I knew that he was going to meet with them the next day. When he went to California, he wasn't 100% sure about what the offer and all that would be. So unlike Tennessee, when it didn't get Charlie Strong to Knoxville, when Cal had him out there, they got the deal done. And then Cuonzo decided he wanted to come back and meet with his team. He met with his team, and he said in our interview that he told those players, stick it out at Tennessee. This is the best place for you. Don't leave.
Well, that's one probably take off the hit list for anti-Cuonzo shots. All right, late in the week, Auburn coach Bruce Pearl decided to talk about Tennessee in an interview with Athlon Sports. Let's show you what he had to say about the Tennessee situation and Cuonzo Martin. Tennessee had a disappointing regular season, and they should have carried the banner a little bit better. Look how they played late in the year. He did not mention Kentucky not carrying the banner as highly as they should have during the regular season, just Tennessee. Then he went on to say, I wasn't surprised Martin left. I really wasn't. Cuonzo didn't seem happy to be there. I know they talked about the fact that he had to overcome following me, and I understand that we had success, but they still had 18,000 people come to every single game. Is that true?
No.
Pretty well.
Tickets, but not.
Tickets sold, they didn't
Yeah.
have 18,000. Overcome that or not, they got great support in Knoxville, great facilities, great university, no mention of a petition, of course. The embracing needs to work both ways. So I'm happy for Coach Martin. It's like he caught himself right in that comment. Yeah. He maintained a level of success that we worked really hard to create. Also didn't mention that he tore it down. I'm grateful to Coach Martin as a former Tennessee head basketball coach and Vol for life. I'm grateful for the job he did because he kept it going. Bruce, time to move on, bud. You're at Auburn. Talk about Auburn. The Vol for Life stuff, that needs to stop. And look,
I wonder how does that set with Auburn?
Bingo.
Well, the other thing,
If you're an Auburn coach or you're an Auburn athletic director, you're an Auburn player, and your coach is saying I'm a Vol for life.
I thought he would say War Eagle somewhere in there. War Eagle.
My bigger issue is how would that set with Cuonzo Martin? I know there are a lot of people out there that don't like Cuonzo, and when he left, a lot of people turned, and that's fine. But whether you like him or not, regardless of who the coach is, if a man tries to snake my job, and we all said on this show a couple weeks ago that we do believe that he was talking to boosters, trying to angle back for his job. If he tried to snake my job and then he comes out and says, well, he didn't seem happy. Well, Bruce, I wonder why. I've lost a great deal of respect over the last 6 months with the way this thing's been handled. I could care less that he's at Auburn. You saw him, we did a thing a few weeks ago. If he'd come back to Tennessee, what would I do? I told you, I'd pay him $500,000 and tell him we're spending $1 million on people to watch his, compliance folks to watch his butt. I am disgusted by this comment. I think he went too far with it. Has anybody else changed their view of Bruce Pearl? Am I overreacting? Which I'm prone to do.
I'm going to say that you're not overreacting. This doesn't make me change my view of Bruce Pearl because it changed several weeks ago, and this just keeps adding to the ledger. I mean, I think several weeks ago when I was talking to some people, heard some things I didn't know, it made me change, and this just keeps going right down the same road with it.
Guys?
Yeah, I'm kind of in Bob's camp here. I don't think Bruce handled a number of things very well, and he doesn't need to be talking about Tennessee's situation. He doesn't need to be talking about Conzo Martin. He looks at himself as accommodating. And yes, if I'm asked a question, I'm going to talk about it. But there are times when he needs to back off and say, that's none of my business. I'm not going to discuss that.
If you go sentence by sentence, it's not that I disagree with really anything he said, but I'm like what Jimmy said. If somebody asked him that question, he needed to answer it in about 2 sentences and move on.
It's not his place to answer
Right,
it.
or he could say no comment.
Yes.
I mean, Tennessee and Bruce Pearl had a nasty divorce, and a good lawyer would tell you anytime that happens, it really doesn't do much good to say things about your ex-spouse. You're just as good letting that. I mean,
Good or
serious.
bad, yeah.
Good or bad, you're just as good letting that go.
I think that's the proper way. I mean, the bottom line, you're right. Some of that stuff that he said, it's fine line by line, but it's what he left out. It's who it is that's saying it. You don't try and snake a man's job. He could have at any point said, folks, I will not take the job at Tennessee. He never did that.
Right.
In fact, when he was asked, he said no comment at a rally in Nashville. I hope Bruce Pearl has success at Auburn for his sake, but the last 6 months, the way he handled this thing, I'm not impressed at all. All right, when we come back, we turn our attention to Michael White and the rest of the search. Come on back on the Sports Source.